It's Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. Kamala got caught. Bill Clinton says the quiet part's out loud, and why one lefty says she left the Democrat Party. Next on the AM Update. Vice President Kamala Harris is facing allegations of plagiarism after numerous passages from the Democratic presidential nominee's 2009 book, Smart on Crime, were discovered to closely resemble or perfectly match wording from other sources. Harris, the then San Francisco district attorney, wrote the book promoting a reform-minded approach to prosecuting crimes alongside ghostwriter Joan O.C. Hamilton, who told the New York Post when she was contacted Monday she was surprised to learn about the alleged copying. Conservative activist Chris Rufo published the allegations Monday and credited an investigation by Austrian plagiarism hunter Stefan Weber, with Rufo posting screenshots on X of 5 examples in which the wording of the book closely resembles other sources. In each instance, the purported source material predates Harris's book publication date. The 5 side-by-side passages indicate that Harris may have lifted wording from an Associated Press article in 2008, a Wikipedia article drafted in 2008, and a Bureau of Justice Assistance report from 2000. In at least 2 of the instances, the source of the original verbiage is cited in footnotes. However, quotation marks are not around the apparently copied words. And in other instances, passages appear to be wholly uncredited, such as the Urban Institute report, which she apparently allegedly lifted as well. In Minneapolis, speaking around a fundraiser yesterday, GOP vice presidential hopeful J.D. Vance blasted Kamala Harris for her alleged plagiarism.
I saw today, actually, a story that Kamala Harris apparently copied some significant chunks of her book from Wikipedia. So if you want a president with their own ideas, vote for Donald Trump. If you want a president who copies her own ideas from Wikipedia, vote for Kamala Harris.
So that is J.D. Vance responding to the allegations that Kamala Harris plagiarized sections of her 2009 book. This comes on the heels of news that Kamala Harris, apparently really confident in her position in this upcoming election, is going to be joining Fox News for an interview on Wednesday. Brett Baer will be conducting that interview. Also, just really confident things that a really confident campaign does. This is a real headline from Politico. Again, we're 3 weeks away today from the election. This headline from Politico reads, quote, Harris campaign rolls out new push to shore up Black men. Yes, that's right, a coalition that Democrats have had in their bag for decades. Now, 3 weeks before the election, they're trying to shore up their support. The report from Politico says, quote, in the coming days, Harris plans to reveal several campaign events and policy proposals designed to appeal to black men. She plans to announce 3 new policy prescriptions, providing 1 million small business loans that are forgivable up to $20,000, training and mentorship programs that would help give black men a leg up in jumping into high-demand industries, and launching an initiative to focus on health issues that apparently disproportionately impact black men. These are moves of a campaign that is not exactly wholly sure where it stands. In fact, to me, it comes off as a little bit panicky. Former President Bill Clinton, on the campaign trail for Kamala this week, talked about illegal immigration and the murder of Georgia nursing student Laken Riley.
You had a case in Georgia not very long ago, didn't you? They made an ad about a young woman who'd been killed by an immigrant. Yeah, well, if they'd all been properly vetted, that probably wouldn't have happened. But if they're all properly vetted, and that doesn't happen, and America is not having enough babies to keep our populations up, so we need immigrants that have been vetted to do work. There wouldn't be a problem.
That is Bill Clinton beginning to say the quiet part out loud there, saying that Kamala Harris failed in her job. Again, he's on the campaign trail. He's wearing a hat in that clip that says Harris Walls. He's on the campaign trail for Kamala Harris, saying that if all of our illegals were properly vetted, that Laken Riley would still be alive. He went on to go more in-depth on saying the quiet part out loud when it comes to illegal immigration.
Platter a new direction to manage an immigration crisis in a tough time where there's all this upheaval all over the world, where there are border problems all over the world, where millions of people are trying to escape the misery they're in, and other people are saying, well, I want to do what I can and take what I can, but maybe there's a limit to how much we can do. In other words, I don't think Americans are anti-immigration, they're anti-chaos, right? They don't want us to do more than we can, but they recognize, at least most people do, We got the lowest birth rate we've had in well over 100 years. We're not at replacement level, which means we got to have somebody come here if we want to keep growing the economy.
That is saying the quiet part out loud. I thought the great replacement theory, that was a right-wing, paranoid, delusional conspiracy theory. And there's Bill Clinton, old Slick Willie, just saying that. I don't know how much more clear you could be. We've got to have somebody come in here and take the place of the people that we're actually killing to abortion. Now, before we get too high on our own supply, you might remember last month, Gallup, which is one of the most reliable party identification trackers in the country, they had Republicans actually leading Democrats for the first time since they started tracking party affiliation. That was last month. With independent leaders, Republicans led the party identification tracker 50 to 45%. With independents, though, Democrats still led by 1 point. Well, they're out with their most updated tracker, which shows now this is more believable. Democrats now lead Republicans in party identification 31 to 27%, with independents making up 42% of the electorate. With independent leaders, Democrats lead by 4 points, still 49% to 45%. This would be more in line with historical norms, saying that September poll or that September tracker was more of the outlier. This is still an incredibly close election. A mysterious fleet of drones entered restricted airspace and swarmed a U.S. military base along the Virginia coast for 17 days late last year, stumping the Pentagon. That's according to a Fox News report citing new sources. For several nights last December, U.S. military personnel reported witnessing a fleet of unknown unmanned aircraft breach restricted airspace over a stretch of land at Langley Air Force Base along Virginia's shore. The report says the drones would start to arrive about 45 minutes to an hour after each sunset each night. That's according to one official, reportedly telling Air Force General Mark Kelly. Kelly described the first drone he saw as roughly 20 feet long, flying at more than 100 miles an hour and at altitude of roughly 3,000 to 4,000 feet above the sea level. As many as a dozen or more drones followed, flying across Chesapeake Bay, then traveling north towards Norfolk, Virginia, then through space overlooking the base for the Navy SEALs Team 6 and Naval Station Norfolk. That's the world's largest naval port. The report said officials could not determine if hobbyists or adversaries such as China or Russia were responsible for the drone fleet. Reports of the matter reached President Biden and resulted in 2 weeks of meetings at the White House in December of 2023. Those meetings included the Defense Department, the FBI, and the Pentagon's UFO office. What the heck is going on? And finally, you may have heard of the Young Turks before. They started as a YouTube channel. Now they're on digital linear televisions in some places. They are the most stereotypical left-winger of left-wingers. To give you an indication, they are the ones who complain about the Democrat Party not being left enough. They are the ones who think that Elizabeth Warren is too conservative. Well, one of the hosts of the Young Turks, Anna Kasparian, joined Keeping It Real with Jillian Michaels recently to describe why she left the Democrat Party again. She's still a lefty, but here she is describing why she no longer identifies as Democrat.
In 2022, it was around March. I was walking my dog. It was not quite dark yet, but the sun was setting. As I'm walking my dog, I see these two guys that were just kind of like moving around weirdly. You know, they seemed kind of manic and their clothes were tattered. So I knew that they were probably homeless. And I also knew that they're probably on something just based on like the twitchy way they were acting. But living in LA, I mean, there's homeless people everywhere, right? So I've never had problems. I didn't think anything of it. But as I was bending down to pick up my dog's mess, one of the guys like grabs me by my hips and he had an erection. Oh, God. And just starts like humping me. And I didn't know what to do. Like I was terrified. I didn't have a weapon on me. Yep. Like I had no way of defending myself. I didn't know how far it was going to go because it's two guys. I'm by myself with my little dog. It was one of the most terrifying things ever because I'm pretty good at defending myself. In that moment, I just knew there was no option.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And luckily, he stopped and they just laughed at me and walked away as they were laughing at me. And so there was the fear and then the humiliation and weirdly shame. Like I felt ashamed for some reason. And it was awful. And it was really taking a toll on my mental health because I have to walk my dog, right? So at least 2 or 3 times a day, I'm going outside kind of scared. And so I opened up about this on the show, not really thinking much of it. And before I know it, I'm starting to get these messages, and it's like really, really harsh stuff. And it's about how you are painting a picture of the homeless community. You know, how could you be like this? You know, these are your unhoused neighbors and they need help. A few people accused me of being racist when I had never disclosed the race of the individuals who did this to me. And in fact, they were white. And so like when they started accusing me of being racist, I'm like, wait a minute. Why are you assuming that the people who did this?
Of course.
Yeah, like, I think you might have a problem here.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that woke me up. That woke me up because I'm like, oh my God.
So that is the Young Turks' Anna Kasparian. She is still a lefty. She's still a liberal. But she describes the moment she decided to leave the Democrat Party because she was sexually assaulted while walking her dog by some homeless dudes. And just her account of that story was enough to set off the liberal mob, telling her she's terrible for saying that these people were housing challenged, we'll call it that. So she recognizes that the left eats its own. She's still a liberal, but she's left the Democrat Party. Do you think she's almost about to put it all together? What do you think? Let me know at Real AM Update on X. That'll do it for a Tuesday. Back at it again tomorrow. I'm Aaron McIntyre, and this is the AM Update.